All right, well, welcome. Thanks to the Market Center for having me over today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brad Hacker, senior mortgage professional over at Benchmark. But today I'm wearing a different hat. A lot of people who work with me know this, but a lot of people who don't, is I actually do financial coaching and counseling outside the mortgage business. And so do a lot of one-on-one financial coaching and counseling. I speak to nonprofit groups around topics around personal finance. And then also do some corporate stuff occasionally for employee benefit programs. So today's class is a class that I teach a lot when everybody hates the B word, but this is one that is designed, it's got a real estate agent spin on it. So we're primarily going to run through how to create a budget, how to balance income when you're on commission. So you know, I am a full commission person myself. Except I'm W-2, so I get screwed all the time. You all don't. So congratulate yourself. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give you guys some budgeting tips. I'm going to give you tips on cutting spending, different things like that. And then we'll just do Q&A, free form. A lot of times I find that the best stuff always comes out by the questions you ask that I can answer. So just a little bit about me. That's my rowdy crew there. And they died of 2 daughters. So that's how I know God's got a sense of humor. He gave me a house full of women. So all the bad things I did as a young man, I now get paid back for on a fairly regular basis. My wife, Crystal, I grew up here in Lexington. I'm a Brown Station grad. Moved to Winchester a little over 19 years ago. Again, I need to update my slide. I actually just had my 20-year anniversary in the mortgage business. So, yeah, just crazy enough to keep doing this. So, I have my certification as a certified mortgage planner through a mortgage training group called Duncan Group, and then also I have my master financial coach through Dave Ramsey's organization. So if you've ever heard of Dave Ramsey or Financial Peace or any of that stuff, and I know there's varying degrees of like or dislike on Dave Ramsey. I don't just subscribe to everything he teaches, but certainly had that. But the biggest thing that you need to know about my story is that in 2008, my wife and I were completely tunnel broke. So I was a mortgage planner in 2008. There was this little housing crash. Any of you remember that?
I do.
That was a lot of fun. So, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So for those of us who were in the real estate industry during that time period, of course, we were all flipping houses and everything was great. The party was never going to stop. And so at the end of it, I had about $600,000 in debt. About $125,000 of that was unsecured. So about $475 of it was real estate mortgages, things like that on flips that didn't flip. They became rental properties because we couldn't sell them. And yeah, it was not a great place to be. So when you hear me talk about this stuff, if you're living into this stuff, just know I've been there, right? Like I've been like, go to the grocery store and have to, you know, swipe your debit card, hold your breath, because you might have to put the bologna back, bro. And if you're about to put the bologna back, it's bad. And so I know what a lot of the reason why I do this for free and a lot of different reasons, I know what that feels like. I know what that does to your marriage. I know what that does to your psyche. I know what it's like to not sleep because you don't know if you're going to keep the electric bill on. I've had a lot of uncomfortable conversations with credit card companies and all those things. So if you, for any reason, are in one of those spots, just know that the reason I'm able to teach this is because I did it so bad that I had to learn how to dig my way out of it and start all over again. So this isn't a holier than thou conversation. This is, I did it really, really wrong. And now I'm going to teach you how to not do it really, really wrong so you don't have to go through that. Is that fair? All right, cool. All right. So this is probably my favorite Ramsey quote. If you don't know where your money goes, it will go somewhere and you will wonder where it. Everybody ever had that month? You look at how much money you made here, like, where the freak did all that go? Normally my money's like, I'm at Wendy's because I got kids and drive-throughs and stuff like that. But that's really the essence of what budgeting is all about, is telling your money when you make it where to go. And that's what we're going to talk about. So, all right. So we're going to start with bank accounts, because if we're going to make money, we're going to have the right places to put it. All right. So there's actually 4 different types of bank accounts that I recommend for a full commission salesperson. All right. Number 1 is just your personal checking account. Excuse me, that is what it is. It's a personal checking account. That's what you're going to pay your bills out of, all that good stuff. Then we're going to talk about what is a profit overage account. I'm actually going to use this whiteboard and draw some stuff for you guys, okay? So we're going to come back to that, but what a profit overage account is really just a savings account. So typically people have savings accounts that are like I have a savings account, so I bank at Stock Yards Bank. My daughter works there. And so I have a savings account that's attached to my checking account. Literally, I could get on my cell phone app right now. I could move money out of that savings account into my checking account in about 6 seconds. So I have one of those savings accounts. Okay, just so you know, that's not a real savings account. That's just a different shop you have money sitting on. But that's a savings account. Okay, that's where we're going to have profit overage account. Okay, you're going to have a tax savings account because all of you all are running businesses, and so you need to save money to pay your taxes. It is amazing how many real estate agents I've known over the years that have tax problems because they do not do a good job of saving money to pay their taxes. And then you're also going to have, that could be a savings account, and then you'll have a business checking account. That's where your money goes for your business because you are in business and you need to have money for things like marketing materials. And if you're not on a team, things like signs and directionals for open houses, some things you spend money on as a real estate professional. So again, this is kind of my model for how I do this for 4 different type of accounts. All right. Now, how we're going to utilize a profit overage account and what it is that before we get into the budgeting part is profit overage account is a separate account from your regular checking savings account. All the money that you above your bare bones budget goes into your profit overage account. Okay. So profit overage account funds are used to cover short weeks and months, and profit overage accounts are perfect for seasonal businesses like ours. So here's how we're going to manage this. Okay. So as we start to make a budget that's going to work on commission, what you want to do is that you want to base your income on an average of your 3 lowest paid months from the previous year. Now, if you want a good thing, a lot of times, again, you have to look at your individual circumstance. It's hard for me to build a presentation because, like, if you have a 0 month, okay, you can throw out your 0 months. You don't want to include that in your average. Just like if you have, in the middle of July, you might have 7 transactions. Okay, that's not going to be a normal month. All right, so you might want to throw out your low month, throw out your high month, and do your 3 there, and then you're going to put yourself on salary. All right, so whatever that amount is, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, whatever that amount is, that's going to be our salary. See, the challenge for folks like us who get paid full commission is it's like most people who work, their income is pretty much like that, right? That makes sense. In our world, our income's kind of like this. Okay? Good months, bad months, good months, bad months, good months, bad months. Hopefully, as you're doing all the right things that you're learning here at Keller Williams, there'll be less of the bad months, more of the good months. But that's typically how income is going to go for a real estate or a mortgage professional. All right. So as we're building out our budget, we want to start to add in expenses. So we got our monthly income, so monthly cash flow budget. Okay. So we got our income. Now we want to start to add in expenses. So the first expenses that you add into your budget are what's called core 4 expenses. There are 4 things in your life you cannot live without. It is a roof over your head. It is clothes on your back. It is food on your table. And there is transportation so you can go make money. All right. So contrary to popular demand, Netflix is not a core 4 expense. All right. So we want to start there. We look at house. Okay, if I'm owning a house, what's my mortgage payment? What's my electric bill? What's my water bill? What's my gas bill? Those type of trash service. We got that. I live in Park County, so we got trash service. Okay, that's your house. Clothes, you budget whatever you want to budget for clothes. Food, we're all going to eat. Some of, if you're like me, you need to eat a little less. And transportation, you get from. So if you got a car payment, that's car payment. That is gas. That's car insurance. A little bit of money for oil changes, even though you have oil changes. Don't have an oil change every month. You don't have oil changes, things like that. Okay, so that's our core 4 expenses. Those are the first things we're going to put into our budget. I spent a very long time only spending money on my core 4 expenses because I could not afford to buy anything else. Now, next things are kind of have to haves. So this would be like about 75% of the time, my wife likes my dog more than she does me. So like feeding the dog in my house is really, really important. That's a have to have. If you have medications, if you have insurance, if you have debt payments, if you have child care, all right, for paying the daycare, things like that. That's going to be the examples of have to haves. Then after we get have to haves in there, we're going to go should haves. I should be putting a little bit of money back for emergencies. That would be any charity or tithing that you do. That would be college funds for the kids or extra life insurance, those types of things. Those are things that you should have in your budget. Those are definitely things that you can live without. Then from there, come on. All right. The last thing we get to add are nice to haves. Right? So nice to haves are going to be like your TV subscriptions. That's going to be entertainment. It's going to be going on vacation. I went a lot of years without going on vacation. Okay. Gym memberships and other subscriptions. All right. So we want to start with our total pay, and we determine what our net income was. And then we're going to subtract our expenses. It has to equal zero. It's what's called a zero-based budget. That means every single dollar that comes into your house has a place in your budget that it goes, right? Because remember, we don't tell our money where to go. It's going to go somewhere. We're going to wonder where it's went. Now, in the good months, you're going to use extra money from your good months to fund your to cover expenses you couldn't afford. So what's going to happen is that, okay, you're going to go out and we're going to have a really, really good month. All right, we're going to sell a bunch of houses, and this is what we got paid. We're right here. All right, everybody see that? I know I'm at a weird angle. Okay, so if we put our baseline as whatever, I'm just going to say maybe this was 4K. It was our baseline. All right, but then next month you only had, so this month was a we'll call this one this was a 7K month. Okay, so what we want to do is we have our profit overage account down here. All right, so what we want to do is we want to take this extra $3,000 and we want to put it into the profit overage account. Make sense? Because next month maybe you're going to have a bad month, and this month is only going to be, that's going to be a $3,000 month, we'll call it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take $1,000 from our profit overage account. We're going to bring ourselves back up to the line. Make sense? Pretty easy. Good. 60 seconds on your phone. That way we're on south. Okay. Now the cool part about the real estate business is you can make a bunch of money doing this. And so with that being said, on good months, if you've got your extra profit overage account, use those to cover expenses and extras you couldn't cover in your bare bone budget. So if you want to start adding some stuff back in, some of those should have, some of those nice to haves, you want to start adding some of that stuff back in, you can do that there. Okay. But you want to make sure you got money down here, so that way when we have need, we've got enough money to bring us back up to the line. Okay. That makes sense? Or y'all follow me? Try to keep this as elementary as I possibly can. All right. And this is exactly how Chris and I learn. So this is how we operate on a monthly basis. Okay. If the number is negative, that's bad news. Then Myrna's here, so go sell some more houses. No, I'm just kidding. All right. If the number's negative, then you got to work backwards, and you just got to start removing items. And if it's positive, congrats. Save extra emergency funds, get out of debt, build wealth. Okay. You're going to want to track this weekly. I know that seems very, very tedious, but I promise you, because here's the problem with budgeting that I meet with. When I'm doing one-on-one counseling, a lot of times, what I run into is I'll run into that person, they're like this, and they're like, budgeting doesn't work. Okay, well, tell me what that means. Well, we make the budget at the beginning of the month, and they're like, by week 3, we're just off. Well, how did you do in between, like when you made the budget in week 3? Oh, we didn't really look at it. Okay, so it's like a trophy, or one of those, like it's like one of those covers on the back of the wall. Like you make the budget, you put it on the wall, and you're looking at it and go, hey, that's a good looking budget. But you never really, it's not, you don't use it for anything. Okay. And so weekly, you got to revisit and you got to grade yourself. How you doing? And checking yourself off. So one of the other things that I'll show you real quick, I'll show you what I just again, using me as the example, because remember, I used to be really, really bad with. I'll show you a little bit about what a weekly budget looks like. Okay. So what we will typically do is we'll start with, okay, I know this is an important concept to some of you younger people. You got to balance your checkbook. Y'all know how to do that, right? Okay, cool. That's cool. amazing how many young people are like, balance your checkbook. They're like, what? Yeah. What's a checkbook? So, okay. Yeah, I've had to educate my daughter who works at a bank. The crap that's online is not always right. Right? Okay, so let's just say we bounce the checkbook and we're good right now. We got about $5,000 in checkings, okay? So we're gonna sit down for that week and we're gonna go, all right, cool. What bills do we have this week? All right, maybe we're paying the mortgage this week, maybe there's car insurance this week, maybe the electric bills due, whatever. Okay. Okay, I spelled that wrong, whatever. All right. I'm really good at math, really bad at letters. Really great at numbers, really bad at letters. That's what you want your letter to be. All right. All right, so we got our bills total. All right. Then we go, okay, well, what's our expenses for the week? So, you know, Crystal and I are dorks. We have the budget committee meeting. You know who's on the budget committee? Me and Crystal. All right. So, y'all didn't laugh, so evidently I'm not as dorky as I think I am, so that's good. All right. So the expenses for that week, of course, we're probably going to buy some gas. And we might want some groceries, and she may have a haircut, and I don't have haircuts. So yeah, she just has really, that's how we justify haircuts. Mine's zero. Hers is really expensive, mine's zero. So when you average it out for a household per individual, it's a reasonable amount. All right, so we got expenses, whatever your expenses are. You know, I've got a 15-year-old, so there's probably a field trip or a birthday party or some kind of crap that I'm giving her money for. Those teenagers nickel and dime you to death. They're like money-sucking little factories. All right, cool. All right, so cool. So we got all of our expenses. All right, whatever that total is. All right. So let's just say the expenses this month maybe were $1,000, or this week, and then the bills were, I don't know, a couple, 2,500. All right, so we got $3,500 left over. Guess where the $3,500 goes? In your profit overage account. Because next week this might be negative. Because maybe you didn't have a transaction that week. And so the balance at the top is a lot lower. So we got to take money out of this to make this zero. That's how you check yourself on a weekly basis. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I am in the drawer. So I try to make things simple so I can understand.
So your first one, you took have any input on the budget?
They could submit requests to the committee, and the committee has the right to approve or veto all requests. So my 15-year-old requests them often.
That you did a formal request
Yeah,
to the committee.
To the committee, that's right. Yeah, it's old school. It's like a local committee at the bank, you know. All right, so we want to track that weekly. If you're not like me, I actually use a spreadsheet. If y'all want a spreadsheet, I'll be happy to email it to you. You can email me and I'll send it to you. I think hopefully there's some of my cards in the building somewhere. I think they're back here on this new fancy wall that y'all have. And so you can shoot me an email, I'll send you my spreadsheet. But there's a lot of good for you younger people out there who don't like spreadsheets. There's really a lot of really cool apps out there. Mint, M-I-N-T is probably my favorite. It's free. You know, you do your checking account. It's really, really easy. It'll track your spending. It'll tell on yourself. You'll be really mad at yourself when you realize how much money you're spending on things you shouldn't. Every dollar is the Ramsey version of it. I'm not real crazy about it. There's one out there called YNAB. I don't know what the acronym stands for. I've played with it a little bit. It's actually pretty good. Okay. So that is how you make a budget work on commission. Now, here's some things that are more specific. Go ahead.
It's more specifically about your weekly meeting.
Okay, cool.
Is that just like same time?
You know, we're not that detailed, but typically Saturday mornings, because we don't usually have a ton going on Saturday mornings. So it's like downstairs, cup of coffee. That's usually what we do Saturday mornings. So when Crystal and I
feel like that's what
do what?
I feel like that's what we should always
Yeah.
figuring out when to talk about
finances.
Yeah. Because we have two little kids at home.
Yeah.
By the time they get in bed, we're like, we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. End of days are bad to do this stuff. So yeah, for sure you're worn out. So we typically do Saturday mornings. You know, because generally now again my kids are a little older, but even when the kids were smaller, even they would get up, get them fed, and then they would be watching something or playing or whatever, and we would sit down and do that. So we pretty much always stuck with Saturday mornings. Okay, I mean, that's always going to be some. Crystal's going on a little weekend trip this weekend, so we'll run through our budget real quick Thursday night before she can fly out on Friday and stuff like that. But we try to, we're pretty consistent Saturday. Works for us.
And add that this week and work it the next week.
Yeah, we typically, because and again, this is very simple. I've got those like wire bound Walmart notebooks that you buy for like 10 cents when it's back to school time. So I buy like 100 of those things when it's back to school time, and that's what we work through this with in one of those notebooks. And so we literally have the previous week, and we'll go back through expenses, because sometimes you'll look at, okay, was there things that, you know, we might jot down a little list of things that we bought that we didn't have in the budget. Like, well, that's one of the key things to it is that we'll run through some tips here. Just second one, once we get to is having a miscellaneous expense column in your budget, because I'm going to forget that I have shirts at the dry cleaners. It's going to cost $20, or she's going to forget that she's out of some sort of skincare or something that I don't understand that she has to have.
But it makes her pretty.
Yeah. And I've been married almost 25 years. I know what heals the dial and what one's not. At least 95% of the time. About 5% of the time I get it wrong and dial wrong again. But I know not to dial in the skincare. I will say that. Especially now that I've got older daughters. But yeah, I mean, it's just making that time and being intentional about it. I think answers your question, Philip. All right, so this is a really big thing right now. Obviously, markets are funky, things like that. I'm not here to talk about mortgage real estate stuff. If y'all want to hang out, I've got lots of fun opinions and theories on things, all things real estate. But right now, when the market changes, so should your budget. And I think that's one thing that a lot of agents because I've been doing some one-on-one financial counseling with some agents recently, and I think this is one of the things they're struggling with, because they're used to their 2020 and their 2021 lifestyle, and they can't have their 2020 or 2021 lifestyle anymore because their income doesn't match their 2021 or 2020 lifestyle. Okay. So here's kind of how I would recommend, and this is actually from if you've never listened to a guy named Ben Kinney. Ben, I know Malia's here, and she's a part of Place and things like that. He actually has a podcast called Win, Make, Give, and they have the thing they just went through. They call it the Wealth Series. They just did Wealth Series 2.0, and this actually came from Ben Kinney's Win, Make, Give podcast. And this really resonated with me. You can actually apply that to both your business expenses and both your personal expenses. So evaluate spending review at least your last 2 months of spending accounts. So, you know, one of the challenges I think for consumers right now is the fact we don't get actual physical statements anymore, right? Because we all get that email that says your statement's ready. How many of y'all have actually clicked that and went, okay, cool, let's look at that statement? She had one out of so there you go. And so, like, go online, print out your last 2 months bank statements. You use credit cards. Go online and print out your last couple of months credit card statements. And then actually go through them with 3 highlighters. You don't have to use green, yellow, red. You can use whatever, yellow, pink, orange, whatever. Okay? Green things are things that you have to have, that you spent money on. Yellow things are things that can be cut back on. Red things are things you need to stop paying money on. We've done this a couple of different times throughout our lives. We had 1 month at one point, we spent $135 in a month on pizza. That's me. I have kids. That little Caesar dude is secretly a little better, because like you think that crap's cheap until you go buy it 4 times a month. So
money down.
Yeah. So go through those, go back through your spending and see where you're screwing up. That same month, I think I spent $35 at Starbucks. So I immediately went and bought myself a Keurig machine with people hiding their coffee cups and stuff in meetings like when I say that and stuff. All right, it's bad for y'all. Y'all got one right there. It'd be dangerous if I worked down here. I think it's big that it has to be a family affair. If you do have a spouse, you do have a significant other, get them involved in the conversation. There for a long time, I had to drag Crystal kicking and screaming because she was perfectly happy to let me deal with it and live in money for this on her own, and that's just not fair. Being frank with you. And then if your kids are older, get them involved. If they're old enough to understand, make them understand. Like I can still remember during the housing crash having a conversation with at that time, she was 5. And I had to explain to her why we were only going to have Elmo and we weren't going to have Mickey Mouse. Not a fun conversation to have with a 5-year-old, but when you're broke, you're having those conversations. Elmo's free. He's on PBS. We got him with rabbit ears. Mickey Mouse is on cable. We could not afford cable.
It helps them. I mean, it's good for you to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when they're teenagers, it's even more. The earlier you can teach your kids about money, the better off they're going to be. Because most don't. Thankfully, at least I've got 1 out of 2 that's listening to me. So we'll see about the little. Verdict's still out on the 15-year-old, but my 19-year-old has got more money in her savings account than most of my clients.
So some people that eat commercial, I think kids that have a certain lifestyle with their parents, and then they graduate college or whatever, they go out on their own, and then they think they should live that same lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
With the money that the parents make versus
what they're making. Yeah, and a lot of it is the parents have never had that conversation with them. One of my favorite, again, old guy, right? So there was an episode of the Cosby Show. I'm probably not live when the Cosby Show was on, or at least you're like, cool. Cosby Show's on, and like one of the Cosby daughters comes into the room, and she's like, "Dad, my friends are blah 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 because we're rich." And Bill Cosby looks at her and goes, "You're not rich. Your mother and I are rich. You are flat broke. You don't have anything." And like I've had that talk with my daughters. They're like, "Oh, but you guys do." Yep, I do. You see me get up and never want to go to work. That's my money. That ain't your money. You can ask for it. I'm a little type A. Does that come across? Are y'all picking up on that? So I don't want to have those conversations with my kids. And so anyway, if it's age appropriate, have this conversation. Have an age appropriate conversation with your kids about money. It does make a difference. All right. Key to sticking to a budget is emergency funds. The reality is life happens and stuff breaks. We can go around the room individually and raise hands, and I promise everybody there was a week where you spent some money on something on Thursday that on Monday you did not know you were going to spend money on that thing. All right? That's just how it is. Life is going to happen and stuff is going to break. And if you own a house, it will break exponentially more often because you have them. It's one of the things I tell all of my customers. You buy a house broke, it will make you broker every single time. Because the biggest difference between owning a house and renting a house, you go from having a landlord to being your landlord. I have to go buy this giant thing that's got tens of thousands worth of pieces to it that all may break at any given second. Might be a good idea to have a little money in reserve to pay for it. Go ahead.
Separate from your emergency account? Or
yeah, I mean, if you want to keep it as separate, because your emergency fund will actually eventually live in like a high yield savings account or money market account. Some of you can get some actual, because you're like your savings account of your bank is going to pay like 0.0002. So my emergency fund, like right now, one of the cool things about actually having a little bit of a decent emergency fund money is you have all these online high yield savings accounts out there that are paying 3, 4, 5, 6% in some cases. So typically your emergency fund will live. Now, when you're first getting started putting it together, if you just want to leave your $1,000 basic maybe step 1 emergency fund in your private overage account, that's totally completely fine. As you get $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, you're going to want to move that over to something that actually pays a little bit of interest. And there's 100. You can use a high yield savings account. There's 100 of them out there right now. I personally use Capital One's 360 account is the high yield savings account I use, but Goldman Sachs has one called Marcus. American Express just rolled out their version of it. Apple just rolled out a high yield savings account that has a really good ROI. I saw that on CNBC last week. So there's a lot of different ones that are out there that you can take advantage of. So you got to have a minimum of $1,000 in your emergency fund at all times. The emergency fund are what stops your budget buster events. To establish your emergency funds, number 1, use some of your extra budget money if you have money left over. Number 2, sell some stuff. I promise you, you all have something in your house you have not touched in 6 months that somebody on Facebook Marketplace bought. Like, have y'all seen some of the stuff on Facebook Marketplace and there'd be people fighting over it? You know, it's like a gold elephant lamp.
I listed a high chair that was 5 years old yesterday, and I had 23 messages of people wanting to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, every professional negotiator in the world is on Facebook Marketplace. So like ask for like $25 more than what you actually want for it. because everybody who messages you can be like, hey, you take $20 less for that thing? You're like, yeah, sure, why not? So,
We could list something on there for a penny.
and somebody might, yeah, it's crazy. They're gonna ask you, can I get a curve? Yeah, it's crazy. And then this is a bullet point. I'm gonna go on a rant for a second. So y'all ready? Michael will be proud of me right now. So this is Michael makes me do this. So okay, you all are realtors. You don't need a side hustle. You go sell more houses, do all the things like we did a little mastermind. Kennedy was there last week, and one of the things that's out there right now is that the real estate business works for people who work. There are a lot of people right now in the real estate business who aren't working, standing around looking, waiting for something to happen. This is you have to be present to win market, and you're in a business that is very, very lucrative. If you sell one of them, you make a lot of money. You don't need a side hustle. You need to go door knock. You need to call your sphere.
The phone.
Yeah. So
if they don't know that here.
Yeah, if you're brand new, then
they haven't been in these classes. But
there you go. They get in some classes and learn how to do that stuff. Okay. So outside of that, no. If you want to go DoorDash or Uber or whatever, knock yourself out, but you're gonna make more money door knocking. All right. All right.
Maybe that would help them learn the neighborhoods, but
that's right. Go meet your neighbors. All right, so let's talk about some spending cuts, because a lot of times what I find, now with commission people, it's a little bit different. A lot of times what I find is most people don't necessarily have an income problem, they have a spending problem. All right. So I think it's good to just try to figure out where you can cut some spending. So these are just some different, these are real life things like coffee, things we've done ourselves, things like that. Number one, switch to reusable items, paper towels, water bottles, sandwich bags, those types of things. You can buy a million little plastic things on Amazon for like $5, and now you don't buy sandwich bags anymore. Paper towels, we have cloth napkins that we use at home that we wash. We don't buy paper towels anymore. We used to use paper towels, sandwich bags, all that stuff. Buy generic. My dad was a truck driver. He used to pick up canned beans at Bush's Beans Factory. I think it's in London or Portland or things like that. And he would literally pick up a pallet of Bush's beans with a pallet of Kroger brand beans that came off the exact same assembly line. And so with that being said, buy generic. I mean, there's a million things out there. Costco's in the world, Sam's Club, you can buy them all. Save some money that way. Aldi's great. Yeah. Yeah. Meal plan. Yeah. We meal plan. We have a I save money at Costco.
$400 every time you go there.
I know.
Spend that more when I go, because there's something there that you just can't put it out.
I don't. So this will be on the cutting tip. You don't go in. You cannot go in. Like if you're a spender, you have to keep your butt out of the store.
Like Costco, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, out of Costco, out of Sam's Club, out of Kroger's, I don't care. Insert store here. Don't go in. You know, they have people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that put things in front of you to make you spend money that you didn't think you were going to spend. Don't go in the store. It's easier right now than ever. Eat leftovers. Make tomorrow's lunch or freeze it for future night. We have a lot of soups. We still do a lot of this stuff. And so we have a lot of soups, because soups are easy to warm up. We have chilies, do things like that. Just things that you can reheat lunch. Brand bag your lunch. This is actually a statistic. I think it's on NerdWallet, which kind of blew my mind, because this is what area I get. I'm a eat out too much for lunch kind of guy. And so the average home lunch cost right now is about $5. The average out lunch is $13. I was just really, really mad. I never ever eat McDonald's, but I was in a hurry to get over here. And McDonald's by my office, and I ate McDonald's today. McDonald's is terrible, doesn't even taste good. And I just spent $8 on a fish fillet combo at McDonald's. I was about to throw the machine when I realized, because I hadn't ate McDonald's like 2 years. And when I realized that a fish fillet combo, that thing used to be like $5. And so I was like, oh, I'll eat something cheap real quick. And I get down, it was like a regular, I'll go on a rant, man. I'm still fired up about this fish fillet. I was fussing about it to Kennedy in the hallway.
I have other situation here. We work right next door to Omicos.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And so I thought I'll just pop in there and have a small salad. Yeah. $18 for a salad that was about this big. Yeah. But it had ahí tuna on it.
Yeah. It's delicious.
And I took on the water with it. But it was absolutely amazing.
It's incredible.
but that's a special treat.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Again, this is what we were just talking about. Stay out of the grocery store. We average savings about $125 to $130 a month doing click lists and not actually physically grocery shopping.
Do you think they picked out the right items?
Yeah, so we go.
We got pretty good luck. I mean, I don't think they screw up as produce. You know, they don't do a real good job picking produce, I feel like. But
It depends who's shopping for you.
yeah, it depends on your shop.
If you've got somebody who's
Yeah.
on there on the grocery,
Yeah. Am I like,
you got somebody that-
yeah,
well, you don't get to pick, you don't.
yeah.
When you go in the store and you see that there's, you know, a 40-year-old doing click list and a 15-year-old.
Right, it's a different experience. Yeah.
Buy groceries, pick out the right stuff.
Right. The problem is like, I don't know how Kroger knows I like L8s and Twinkies, but I'll be damned when I walk in there, there's freaking L8s and Twinkies on the end cap. They're just like in my budget. So it's good for us to stay out of there.
Because all of our cashiers are the college and high school students, and all of our those people are the older adults.
There you go.
It's like they figured out that the kids can't figure things out.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And then we're a little hipster on the local farm thing on our meat, so that's probably not the best use of money, but we like it that way. So, all right, brew your own coffee. If you spend $6 a day on coffee, that's $180 a month.
Wow.
Cut subscriptions and memberships you aren't using. I found we actually did this, and it wasn't a lot. It was like $40 a month and stuff we had signed up through the pandemic when we were stuck at home. It was just like random things that, like, you know, just get. We had every plus there is, HBO plus, Discovery plus, you know, we had every streaming service known to mankind, I think, at one point. Take your shopping apps off your phone. So it's what I did to Crystal. You no longer has Amazon on her phone because I had to like, baby, step away from the buy now button. Get that. So yeah. I had to take Amazon off of her phone. And then it's the credit cards. I mean, credit cards are the worst. It's always funny to hear the dude who gives people big large debt for a living say he hates debt. I am not a fan. That's the next class. We'll talk about how to get out of debt.
But maybe just keep them, but just don't use them.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to go. Again, that's another class for another day, but again, it's just, here's the reality of it. You don't want to keep paying for something you bought. Like I do this lesson with young people. I've taught a couple of times at the ATC in Georgetown with their senior classes. And the thing that I realize is, you know, if I go buy the shirt for $25 and the interest rate on my credit card is 20%, the average interest rate right now just hit all-time high on credit cards. It's 19.39%. Highest it's ever been in history. If I go pay $25 for this shirt, I'm paying 20% interest on it, and I don't pay it off, then that means that my $25 shirt now costs $31. And then the next month it costs $38. And then the next month it costs. So you gotta pay it here. Like, I'm not anti-credit card, I'm just anti-interest. You're gonna do the credit card thing, gotta pay them off.
Most interest on their Lowe's card, if you don't pay it off, is 26%.
Yeah.
You won't have check Lowe's.
Yeah, it's some of them.
Sending you 10% off coupon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Kohl's, man. The people at Kohl's are really good at math. So,
You gotta pay that
yeah.
balance off everybody.
all right, here's a few other budgeting tips. You gotta know why you're budgeting. If you're just doing it to do it, you won't understand. You gotta have some kind of goal. Like, it's not a bad thing to have goals around this. Like, we would set little budgeting goals to where you know, ice cream cones in the summer at McDonald's at one point were $1. And so if we hit a budgeting goal, we take the girls and go to McDonald's, get an ice cream cone. When they were, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they thought that was freaking, yeah, Mom, I killed it with budget this week. We get to go get ice cream cones. So like we'd literally have my 9-year-old going, hey, was that in the budget? Because she knew that if we bought something that wasn't in the budget, she wasn't going to get her ice cream cone. She was, you know, she was bad. So again, you know, have goals around that. If you're a couple do the budget together, we talked about that. It just helps. Make sure you're including non-reoccurring expenses in your monthly budget. Oil changes, that's something you don't buy every single month, but that's something you're going to have 3 or 4 times a year as a realtor. Okay. Vacations. If you're not going to let go of your vacation, kids are like, how much am I going to spend on vacation? Divide it by 12, save that amount every month. Christmas is my favorite thing as a one guy. When you every January I get clients say apply for their loan, and I'm like, hey, my credit card bills are a little bit high because it just came through Christmas. And I'm like, did it sneak up on you? Because I'm like 46, it's been December the 25th, like every year I've been alive, I'm pretty sure. You know, you're gonna spend like $1,500 on Christmas, you might want to put $125 in savings account every month. I mean, you pay cash for it, and you don't have to finance Christmas. So non-recurring expenses, put those in your budget, just break them down. Realize every month's a different, plan accordingly. December, you're buying Christmas presents, you're not buying Christmas presents in July. That's gonna be a different month than ever, you know, in school is a lot more expensive for us than summers. Because again, a field trips and beta club and this club and football game and all the things that I get my kids money for to do their things. Thankfully, she'll be 16 in 3 months and she'll get introduced to this new wonderful thing called a job. So that'll be fun for both her and me. And then get out as fast as possible. There's no bigger budget buster than your debt. All righty. All right. Don't be afraid to trim your budget. You got to get it. Sometimes you got to get skinny. You got to get skinny. That's just part of it. Make sure to include a buffer that your miscellaneous expense. There's going to be things that you forget, so make sure that you're putting a miscellaneous category into your budget just for things that pop up, different things like that. And then if you really suck in an area, go cash. We were really bad at groceries, so we were really bad at eating out. So we went cash for a long time on groceries and eating out. I didn't go cash on gas. Gas is another one you can go cash on. I just hate walking into the gas station and paying money, going out pump and all that stuff. But wherever, you know, it's like the big joke is the 11th commandment should be thou shalt not pay thyself out. Right? If you know you suck in an area, go cash on that area. It will help you, because if you got money, you see that, and there's been studies actually show that when you the same receptors in your brain when you smash your finger, when you hand somebody $100 bill, it triggers. There's actually been studies on that, so that we don't have that connection when we're swiping the card. So a lot of times it's better to go cash on this thing. This is a big thing. Give yourself a lot of grace, especially in the beginning. You are going to screw this up over and over and over and over again. It takes time to change habits, just like in anything. And the biggest thing is that that's where a lot of people struggle with budgeting. They screw it up and they just quit. They give up. Oh, we bought one thing that wasn't in the budget. Budget's blown up for the month, we're done. And you just got to give yourself grace to know you're going to stumble, you're going to fall. That's part of it. Even now, I mean, I feel like we're probably on a scale of 1 to 5 being like the best budget in the world. Most months we're like a 3.8. You know, there's still places you're going to screw it up. It just is what it is. But again, I feel like when I come across people who that I'm counseling, or even people that I'm giving loans to, it's like, you know, again, it's like, it's just a couple of clicks. Like if it's, scale of 1 to 5, it's like they're a 2. And if they would just be a 3, they would be so much better. And so a lot of it is just making sure you make those small adjustments that make a really, really big difference. Okay. All right, cool. A few closing thoughts. Contentment and discipline are the keys to great personal finances. Young people, if you've never heard this phrase, my granny always used to say, keeping up with the Joneses. Right? Apparently the Joneses were rich people, I don't know, or at least they're secretly broke. Right? Everybody around you, like I have this thing where I get to see everybody's credit report. And so like one time my older daughter, her friend, was like, oh, Brent's got, I should say that name there. So-and-so's got blah, 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 blah. And I'll be like, yeah, I just did their loan and they've also got like a $25,000 house with their Amex. I can't say that out loud, right? But I see what actually happens behind the scenes for what people, so when you look at that stuff, like one of these days, if I ever, have more money than I got since, I'm going to make a thing that's called For Real Book instead of Facebook. It's like where you have to put like your real thing on there. Not what you want people to see on social media. And so with that being said, contentment and discipline are the keys to great personal finance in terms of like your clients don't care what kind of car you drive. They want to see the house. They're not looking at your car. And the reality is if you have a client coming in from out of town and your car sucks, then go rent a nice one. They're like $65 a day and drive them around in that one. I have to have a $500 a month car payment to show clients. That's a very convenient realtor excuse to have a really high car payment. Sorry, that hurts anybody's feelings. I didn't mean to.
Or leasing.
Do what?
Or leasing instead of buying.
Or leasing instead of buying. Yeah, that's a whole new thing. And that goes to that. I mean, don't let your ego make you broke, because it will. Big house, nice car, blah blah blah. Insert whatever, pull whatever. And so, you know, and again, this is personal experience. Your ego will make you grow. And then the last thing, anybody can be a personal finance. You know, this stuff isn't a secret. Everything I just went over to you, you can go to Barnes & Noble today, Joseph Beth, whatever your favorite bookstore is. You can go to the personal finance section and all it's right there in 100 different books at 100 different ways. Like, managing your finances is 20% knowledge and 80% behavior. Like, it's not necessarily what you know, it's what you do. Okay, it's kind of like selling real estate. Right? You can know everything there is to know about selling a house until you actually go out and sell a house. You gotta go do it at some point. And then I'm here to help. I mean, a lot of real estate agents one-on-one, very privately. If you are having trouble with this and you would like to do a sit down with me, I want to help you in any way I can with this stuff. So if you want to get with me, happy to do it at any time. If you have just general personal finance questions, one of my favorite things about the way I've built my mortgage business is I've integrated all this into how we talk to clients. And so my clients get to do an annual financial review call with me every year for free. And when I do one-on-one financial counseling outside of the mortgage business, I charge $200 an hour for it. And so when my clients get a scheduled 45-minute phone call with me to just talk about their money, it doesn't even have to be about their mortgage or anything. I've had most of those calls around things like retirement and getting out of debt, budgeting and different things like that. It has very little to do, because quite honestly, those calls when it comes to the mortgage right now are really boring, because everybody who owned a house in the last few years is like, congratulations, you've got a bazillion dollars in equity and your interest rate's 2.5. You know, so not a lot of talk about around their house for the people who bought the last few years.
And they didn't want to sell that house because
Yeah.
How many clients
Yeah.
do those particular ones?
About 20, I average about 20-25%. 20-25% of my clients will actually do the call with that. That was one of the I'll sidebar to real estate just a second. That was one of the, so we did I do these breakfasts once a quarter to help you guys with different stuff. You're gonna be invited to those, and just hit me up. Body Kennedy was there last Tuesday. We did 10 ways to market your real estate business right now. And we kind of created a version of the annual financial review where we talk about annual equity reviews with your clients, reaching out to your clients and actually calling them, doing a scheduled call, doing a scheduled Zoom, doing a scheduled sit down where you actually go and sit down and meet with your clients to do an annual equity review. It's a great thing to do with your customers right now, because if you help somebody buy a house in the last 30 years, you help them win big time, because they've got a boatload of equity and they did it at the cheapest money in history. So do it that much will.
That's where you should go back and look at all of these.
Yep.
In the last 3 years.
Absolutely. All right. That's pretty much it. Question. I know y'all been asking questions as we've been going, so we kind of been on the fly there. Any other questions, budgeting wise, that you want to ask? Did all that make sense? Like, do you feel like, because when I teach this stuff, I want it to be implementable. Because you have a lot of people who talk about personal finance and it's all like up here. And it's like not stuff that you can take to your kitchen table at home. When I teach this stuff, I want it to be stuff. So if you got any feedback from me that it's like, hey, that didn't sound right, I want you to be able to go do this week. If you have any questions about that, definitely.
I think I would say anything. We did Dave Ramsey so early on in marriage, and you know, we had to make it fun, because otherwise you feel like you're just, you know, we would only have that challenge, and my husband would be like, I didn't get coffee at Super America today, and it'd be like a high five, right? Because you're like, you just in literally trying your best with the kids. Like, what did we not spend today, right? Like, we had lunch at home and we went to the park for free, and trying to do things like that. But with us, it was that flexible income, because I was at that time I did hair, and so it was, you know, self-employed, same as this, right? You never really knew. And I had a really hard time getting that flexible income sheet from Dave Ramsey figured out, right? Like trying to say, but it's different. How do I know? And I saw these bills that I have to pay for the, you know, this and that. And so getting it to where you can be like a week ahead or a month ahead. So what you're looking at this week, you know, what I made that week is not being spent this week.
Right.
That's going to be spent next week.
Right.
So trying to get kind of that 1 week ahead and then maybe a month ahead, to where, because it is really difficult when you don't know how much is coming in. So
yeah, and that's why weekly budgeting is really, really, really important for your commission. When you got that variable income, like really sitting down and going through it on an every 7 to 10 day basis and getting ahead of it and knowing, because again, we all have things deal fall out, like they don't. It's like that's all. Real estate's almost like that old King Roger song, you know. Kind of count when the dealing's done, right? You don't count until after you left the closing table. So anyway, but yeah, but again, reach out. I'd love to. I'm a geek. I love this stuff. This is a lot of fun for me. So if you guys have any individual questions that you want to ask, just let me know. But thank you for coming. We're doing this again next month. Do you have that date, Brian? So the second class in Dope We Broke will be grab a shovel, digging your way out of that. So we're talking about how to get out of it.
So, like she was talking about Ramsey, the way Ramsey talks, right? But you know, like they say that debt is bad. Debt is bad, borrowing is bad. But I don't understand when somebody saying, okay, if somebody, let's say a celebrity, they might have so much money in their account, but they still utilize the money to make more money. So instead of me using my money, it's better for me to borrow to use their money and make money from there rather than keep my money away.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm very financially concerned. So it's all about risk tolerance. So the answer to the question, yes, you can do that, but you have to understand with every piece of debt that you take on risk. Because I was using a lot of other people's money when I was flipping houses, and I didn't plan on the housing market crash. And so I had $125,000 of other people's money that I was using to like gut houses and hang drywall and buy cabinets and things like that I got stuck with. So for me, that's almost like hot stove for me. So debt in my mind is bad because I touched it, it burned me. I'm not doing that again. So you just have to understand there's risk associated with doing it. Now, obviously, when it comes to a place where I go off of the Ramsey path, is when it comes to real estate. Like I can make a math argument as to why leveraging that to purchase rental real estate is not particularly a bad decision. Now, there's ways to go about that the right way, but for me, I'm not leveraging that to make money just because, as long as everything goes well. Like the thing you always hear is that you always hear the good parts. Nobody ever talks about the bad ones, you know. And that's the thing. So again, you have to know what your risk tolerance is to be able to do that. I know personally my risk tolerance is very, very low.
Budgeting tip. My husband loves Kroger. He does the grocery shopping. He waits until Friday to go grocery shopping because it's 4 times the points when you're on your car, your Kroger card.
Oh,
so
really?
last week I filled my tank up and I used my points and I was looking at it. I got $1 off per gallon because we had so many points on our card. I know, I couldn't believe it. I put it up to him. I said, oh, how did you do that? You know, he didn't even know that I could get $1 off.
Yep. Well, a little bit. I think that's the thing we a lot of us don't realize is a lot of little bits add up to a lot.
Exactly.
You know, and when you're doing that $1 off a gallon, well, that's $15. You do that twice a month, that's $30.
Yeah.
All right. Well, $30 might be half of a gas bill. You know, a lot of little bits add up.
Use your Kroger coupons and utilize your Kroger points, and you don't use Ibotta. Do it all.
Yeah.
I saved $175 last month in groceries from Kroger coupons, and I made 45 of it back of what I spent back using Ibotta and the cashback that they give for just scanning receipts.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. Ibotta, it's Fetch.
Sometimes I can get very easily sucked into that stuff, and I mean, there's definitely a value, but for me, like I have to think. And it's the time I'm spending,
that's
like
true.
comparison shopping, like I could be really generating. And you know, one deal,
There's balance to that.
you know, I mean, it's just like Mike said, you know, it's just like, because I can get sucked in, man. I can get
15 minutes, and I just look at what I use daily.
Yeah.
And what my kids are doing, and the coupons all right before I leave. And
you know, it's
Program, you can just go through, go keep on just boom, 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 boom. That's what we do. Yeah.
that's all they use. So
All these are crazy.
yeah. But I stopped taking it over, you know, it's all about, you know, like you say, it's like, yeah, but I don't know. Hey, thanks for. I need to talk about,
An hour drive.
That's the one that
yeah, so like a lot of people, so my work tax, we see far away.